you can see that the release date of Imperator Rome was the 25th of April 2019, and it is the 25th of April 2021 right now. That means, yeah, we've got 2 years. I think we can all agree it came out in a relatively poor state. But I think that, yeah, definitely the game has massively improved over the course of its life cycle so far. And right now we're in a relatively good place. There's still work to be done, and I'm sure the developers are still working on it. Though there has been a little bit of radio silence for what seems like about a month, a little bit more than a month now. Ever since 2.0 came out, we haven't really heard anything from the devs. And that is unfortunate, but that did change today, as today we got this post by Arheo. If I can just get over to it, there we go. Celebrating that it is indeed 2 years since the game came out, which is, it's nice that it's being recognized for sure. So, at the time of writing, it has been 2 whole years since the launch of Imperator. It would be remiss of me to let such a momentous occasion pass without any acknowledgement, so in time-honoured tradition, I shall begin the trawl through our early development archives to find some anecdotal and or interesting snippets. I will not be covering anything to do with the upcoming content, so fair warning, if you're expecting that, you can safely skip past this post. So, while he does say that he's not going to be talking about any upcoming content, I do kind of have a feeling that this does sort of sound like there is upcoming content, right? He's not going to be talking about it, but does it feel like maybe this is an acknowledgement that there is upcoming content? I want to believe that that is the case. I really do want to believe that that is the case. Because I need more content in my Imperator Rome, pretty please. Yeah, I need it. But anyway, let's have a dive through the early annals of Imperator Rome, pre-release and post-release, and talk about and look at various things to do with the game. So, for me, the journey on Imperator began in content design, putting together the map region by region while working remotely from the UK. Of course, Arheo is from the best place in the UK, which is Yorkshire, which is where my good self is from as well. Just putting that out there. Yorkshire boys gotta stick together. Anyway, moving on. There's a vast amount of work done on games before and during the stage, although such work is often less visible. For many months, everyone in the world was Egyptian. You can also see that a great deal of work went into figuring out the likely state of the coastal lowlands later on in development. The question of why Dogger Bank, which is this whole area, this whole area here is like Dogger Bay, and ancient past, this was not submerged in underwater, and it was called Dogger Land, and for some reason bits of it are here. They shouldn't be, but they are. The question of why Dogger Bank is not submerged in its early screenshot remains unanswered. Very ambitious content designer, possibly, maybe. But anyway, yeah, that is the earliest screenshot of Britain that we have for Imperator Rome. Interesting. At one point, we tried more organic-looking sea zones, so instead of the sharp lines that we have, they've got very organic ones. I don't really see what it adds to it. Yeah, they don't feel like it adds much aside from making sea boundaries more confusing. You can also contrast this Sicily with some of the changes that have occurred to the region in the Magna Graecia update. So, of course, we had a big overhaul to the Sicily region. It added impassable areas of terrain, some mountains in the north, an impassable volcano in the south, which we'll see a little bit more of in a bit. But yeah, this area got a lot of work done to it, which is nice. But it's clear to see from a very early stage they wanted the map to be very much more broken up than you see in the likes of EU4 or Crusader Kings. There is a lot of individual provinces in Sicily here. Compare that to any of the other games, and it's objectively more detailed. which is really nice, in my opinion. The important nations are added. Icons are shamelessly borrowed from other games. Wars were quite interesting to observe when the map was as empty as this, as the AI began to undergo a development. Of course, Rome being the very earliest of the nations to be added. We've also got Epirus in its standard color. We've got Macedon there in its standard color. Sparta, for some reason, is green. We have Syracuse. We have Carthage. We have a war between what I assume is Rome and Epirus here, which is kind of cool. We also have Egypt. Nice. I kind of like the terrain here. I feel like this is something we could do with getting back some of this lovely clean terrain. Yeah. The early concept spreads we have the 4 now depreciated since 1.2 power types. Interestingly, you'll see that whereas we shipped the game with the 3rd concept style, so this one here, the UI rework that came with 2.0 was strongly influenced by the first and earliest concepts here. Well, some of these are still in the game. Like, for example, the religious one is still in the, well, they're all in the game for the skills of your people. Of course, the martial skill has still got this lovely helmet. We've still got the civic skill having this, charisma, zeal. These are still in the game, but yeah, the new icons with 2.0 are definitely more blacked out, blocky, just, clean like this. Which, some people like, some people don't. I think in some places the flat style works better, in some places it doesn't. For example, I think one place that the flat design works much, much better is in forts on the map. Being able to see those in the flat white design is much clearer to me than the previous detailed one. That's just a personal preference, though. Yeah, at some point something fairly vital disappeared from the game. Yeah, Phrygia changed. Also, the colors of the different countries, like Thrace here in yellow, Phrygia in red. Phrygia, of course, turned into Antigonid Kingdom with 1.6, I want to say. Thrace being green from the very start, which is kind of cool. Also, Bithynia it got its name changed. It's still the same color, but Bithynia got its name changed to Bithynia. It's much, much smaller, and there's a lot more nations now in the game. Like, for example, the southern part of Anatolia here, there's a lot more diverse range of countries. Along the Ionian coast, of course, there's more countries. Up in Bithynia, there's more countries like Chalcedon, Astakos, Chios. We've got Ionia and Aeolia down in the south. We've got Lycia, etc. There's a lot more. There's a lot more range of countries than there used to be. Breaking up into more, I think, is always going to be better. It looks like Athens was always meant to own this island, though. The before and after should be a testament to the incredible talent of the art team. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear to say that Imperator Rome is the prettiest game that Paradox makes. I don't think even Imperator's worst detractors could argue against that. Because this is really pretty. And the only one that really comes close is Crusader Kings 3. And there is 2 areas, I think, that CK3 really falls apart when it comes to looks. And that is, here. In the Nile Delta. The Nile Delta in CK3 looks absolutely awful, in my opinion. I do not like it at all. But in Imperator, it looks great. I think Imperator is the prettiest game that Paradox makes. It's just opinion, of course, but it's mine and I'm sticking with it. One of the most troubling and long-standing bugs was trying to discover why certain large Greek nations would end up looking like Swiss cheese in our overnight runs. This persisted for several months. The culprit, it transpired, was the Olympics event. It would target and send governors to the Olympics who, rather than travel alone, would transfer ownership of the capital state of the governorship to the country hosting the Olympics. So yeah, the Phrygians apparently sent a lot of land over to be controlled by whoever owned Olympia. It's kind of funny. Interesting that Cappadocia and Commagene both had their flags changed, but they've still got the same country color. That's pretty interesting. Armenia is there as well. And it seems like only Phrygia really is losing a bunch of land, although Cappadocia's lost a bunch here to that same event. Interesting stuff. The Olympic event proven to be responsible for causing or identifying numerous issues and bugs over the course of development. Without it, we would not have realized that babies born to mothers in country A would instantly arrive in the location of their father in country B, presumably by means of some Mediterranean child cannon. Probably made by Archimedes, let's be honest. He'd be totally the dude to do that. We also have the OG megacity. Ay. This is this is a thing. This is... God, I hate it. I made a video about megacities a little over a year ago now. It's like the third or fourth most watched video on my channel. Basically saying why I hate megacities, why they should be broken up and destroyed, and or rather how they would be better balanced. And I stand by every word I said in that video. And for the longest time, I thought that 2.0 had fixed that issue with megacities. No, they're actually worse than there have ever been. I've now seen a city with 20,000 pops in it, which I absolutely despise. It's probably high time for another megacity video, I think. But yeah, this is back when every territory had cities. There was, of course, no difference between a city and a settlement. Everything was a city. So we had buildings absolutely everywhere. And of course, more buildings came from having more pops. So you get a large enough amount of pops, you're going to end up with, well, this nightmare situation. Also have Sevilla Bordigo. If we thought the Imperial Challenge CB could lead to Bordigo, you ain't seen nothing until you've experienced the pre-release builds. And yeah, no, this looks absolutely disgusting. Yeah, no, there's nothing good to see here at all. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. What happened here? I don't understand. Ugh. It's like there's no end to it. I don't understand how this could have happened. There's a challenge for you. In the comments, how many Romes are there here? Of course, this is all material from before the release of the game. After the release, a huge amount of work was put into changing and developing core features and mechanics. The 1.1 Pompey patch snuck under the radar a little, but had some pretty cool features, my favourite of which are the sadly rare volcanic eruptions. Yeah, no, volcanic eruptions are pretty cool to see. I think it probably would be my favourite feature from Pompey patch as well. Though it did also change the naval game and stop us having just one kind of ship, which was very much welcome. Made the naval game, while it's not perfect, it's a lot better than it was on release. The 1.2 Cicero update is still one of the most comprehensive overhauls of core system mechanics I can imagine in a live game, perhaps comparable to the Stellaris or Imperator 2.0 updates. I would still say 1.2 is up there as the biggest update a Paradox game has ever had. I think that while Stellaris's Utopia and Apocalypse updates were huge, neither changed the game quite so radically as the Cicero update did. The Cicero update changed population, changed the pops from being very static, from being a resource basically where you could spend your mana points to change them or promote them or demote them or move them or change their culture, change their religion. You could do all of that with just a button press. The Cicero update changed that to be a more gradual, a more vibrant and living simulation of population, and it is the best update that has ever happened to a Paradox game in terms of the level of quality pre and post patch. Cicero had that biggest jump. it can't go understated how big that was. And, population wasn't all that it changed. It also introduced the cities and settlements distinction, changing the map from just being every single territory is identical to being, well, you have your cities and you have your settlements. Cities can't make food, so they need settlements to grow their food. And, that whole thing came in, and I think that was entirely an Arheo change, cities and settlements, and that was also huge. And that's not everything, because how I just said that pre-Cicero you changed your population by spending mana to promote and demote and convert and assimilate? Well, mana got completely axed from the game and changed into, political influence. That's a huge change. That is a huge change. Cicero was massive, and I think it needs way more recognition for being quite as huge as it was. It just does not have nearly as much recognition as it really deserves, I think. But yeah, no, Cicero, amazing update. Absolutely amazing update. Regardless of the continuous debate around reception and fan base, which is something we keep getting, oh, Imperator's dead because player numbers, whatever, shut up. The 1.2 update to me signaled the point at which many things fell into place about what Imperator was going to be, the defining and unique identity as a civilization builder. The pop simulation and expansions to the granularity of the administrative process, cities, settlements, trade, etc., organically led to design to tie more and more of these systems together into a very neat and interconnected simulation, culminating most recently in the 2.0 update. The religion and culture and finally warfare updates each built successively on the foundation of their predecessor. The warfare updates could not have existed without first having a robust and diverse population cultural management system, for example. Yeah, I think when the culture update came out, people didn't really understand what it was all about, why the change was being made. And it really does not make sense without understanding the 2.0 update. Like the warfare, the way that, your cultural levies are made up, the way that you can only raise levies from cultures you accept, that doesn't make sense if you don't have the culture system first. So yeah, massive props to the foresight, I guess. The culture wasn't the most well received, but I think looking back on it, it absolutely makes sense that you need this before you can get this, and this is fantastic, and it needed this. So yeah, looking back, totally understand where it was coming from. At the time, I didn't understand it. Ultimately, I feel the game has made great strides towards where I wanted it to be. I see great fondness in the words of our dedicated fans for the experience that Imperator offers them, which is an experience that is unique to it. I will say for myself, Imperator is my favourite Paradox game. Just straight up. For EU4, which is the game I have the most hours in, the systems within it that I don't like they grate on me the more I play them. And with Imperator getting better and better, and really showcasing those systems in E4 that I really don't like, just how it can be done better, it just makes me like EU4 less and less. Things like mana. I'd never liked mana in EU4, and Imperator has shown that, yeah, you can totally have this style of game without mana. It's completely possible, and it's better. Development. I fucking hate development. I think development is a terrible, terrible system. And Imperator's shown you don't need development, you can have population. And it works objectively better. And I don't care if people are going to have an issue with me saying objectively. I stand by it and I mean it. It is objectively better. Population in Imperator is objectively better than development in EU4. Just deal with it. So yeah, I think Imperator is a better game than EU4 is right now. The places where EU4 is better are things like the individual mechanics for different countries, like the Burgundian inheritance, like the Japanese daimyo system, all these little systems that are unique to different areas. And I think EU4 is always going to have that over Imperator, purely because we know more about the period and it's possible to do those kinds of things. But yeah, I don't know. I completely went off on a tangent there. But yeah, Imperator, favorite game easily. Just it's the one I enjoy the most. All the successes and hard. You know what? I should probably scroll down so you can just see this fantastic image right here. All the successes and hard work you can see in our live game, and the anecdotes and screenshots above has been created by a passionate and talented team, the membership of which changed over the years in development, but whose collective ability to adapt and overcome still inspires me. There are so many things to say about the development of Imperator, many tangents I wish to follow, from UI rework down to the details about AI, feature implementation, and funny bugs, but I'd be here all day. Instead, you'll have to make do with the meandering ramble above. I'll do my best to answer any questions below, with the obvious caveat that I won't answer anything about future features, content, or development. You can also track my own metamorphosis from keen, naive, eager content designer with hair through to autocratic Imperator with no hair here. That's kind of funny, because this is actually made by my wife, which is kind of funny. I should probably actually pull it up if I can. It'll be in my Imperator. Where's my Imperator folder? Here it is. My wife makes my thumbnails, and I did an interview with Arheo, so she made this. And then Arheo liked it, so he now has it as his Twitter profile picture, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, nice progression. I like it. He also answered one of the questions in the comments. The 1.1 update feels like it was going to come regardless of how Imperator was received, and you probably talked about the 1.1 patch before 1.0 was even released. Yeah, we knew it was coming. We knew it was going to be the naval rework. I think it was called it was Pompey patch. I was trying to say Ptolemy there, but no, it's Pompey patch. The 1.2 patch in comparison really shifted quite a few core mechanics of the game. Do you think the game would have evolved in a similar manner from 1.2 onwards if Imperator had a better reception at launch? If not, what would have been the biggest differences? So, question 1 here. It's not unusual in game development. Final builds need to be frozen many months before release for many reasons. It will be vastly unproductive to sit there twiddling our thumbs and waiting for release, so work is done on prospective future updates. That's completely normal, natural, no problem there. To the answer to the second, how would the game have evolved if Imperator had a better reception? It's pretty obvious. No. If it ain't broke, don't fix it comes to mind. Whilst evolution on a successful game is entirely possible, I don't think it would have been possible to justify the magnitude of change in any scenario other than which we were presented. Yeah, if Imperator wouldn't be as good as it is today if it was good on release, or if it was accepted on release, or it was liked on release. 1.2 especially would not have happened. And I think things like when EU5 eventually comes out, it will be a better game for Imperator's failure of a launch. Because what Imperator's failure of a launch taught Paradox, and I think especially Johan, is that there were the wrong lessons taken from the successes of previous games. EU4 is a widely successful game. It sold shit tons, it continues to sell shit tons, it has a dedicated following, it is played by thousands and thousands of people every single day. It's a successful game. You can't just copy the features from EU4. Like I said, mana, shit system. Shit system in a good game. You can't just copy that. And I think the other lessons were ones of instant gratification. Back in 2018, I went to PDXCon when Jake, DDR Jake, was the head of EU4. He was the game director of EU4. And what Jake said to everybody who met him at PDXCon was, give me one suggestion for EU4. Like, give me a minute's pitch. And my suggestion was for a dynamic population system, although my idea of that was more akin to Mayo and taxes than it is to Imperator Rome at the time. And his answer definitely stuck with me. And it's one that I hated at the time, and it's one I really still don't like at all. And that was that he felt that EU4 was, well, I mean, I'm pretty sure he used the term instant gratification. You click a button, you get a reward. Instead of having a dynamic, a gradual system of you click a button to build a thing, and this thing affects a thing, and this thing increases the rate at which the other thing happens. Yeah, it didn't want that at all. You click a button, you get a reward, and I think that is EU4's biggest issue. And I think that is something that we definitely saw with 1.0 of Imperator, especially with the population. Being able to completely change the culture and religion and the status, like the civil status, your strata of a pop, from going from slave to freeman to citizen, changing your entire religion, changing your culture. You can do all of that in a single day with enough mana points. That is instant gratification, and that is a lesson that was, I imagine, learned from the success of EU4, and it was a bad lesson. And I think that Imperator Rome will have taught some lessons too, for future projects. That kind of shit just don't fly anymore. Instant gratification isn't something that most people want. It's something people tolerate. I hope that's the lesson that's been learned, at least. And I do think that EU5 will be a better game because of Imperator. I think we will see a population system. I don't think we'll see mana. And I think EU5 will be very much stronger if those two specific lessons are learned. As to what it may have looked like, well, I think 1.2 lit a fire under the simulation balloon. Paradox games always involve simulation, but I think we took it to the next level in 1.2. I guess imagine Imperator without those changes. Well, I probably wouldn't still be playing it if it didn't have the changes. 1.2 really worked for me. It really clicked for me, So, yeah, I'm very glad that happened. I'm just going to refresh the page just to see if there are any more questions that have been answered. My own comment here. I'm wondering if there are any idea that you had for previous versions of Imperator that are never going to see the light of day because the game ended up going in a different direction. Especially things like, before the launch of 1.0, what did you think was going to be part of 1.2? Or when doing the culture rework, did you already know that you wanted to have levies? I think this is going to be a yes. If this isn't a yes, I'll be very surprised. There's never a shortage of ideas. I don't think there's often a subject that is totally locked out by other design choices. In the case of levies, this was part of the plan for a fairly long time. Yeah, exactly. There should be a full stop here. Or hey, oh! Yeah, no. In the case of levies, it was part of the plan for a very long time, and those changes were made to tie it more securely into the culture system. Having connections between the various system reworks is part of our core design philosophy, or theory even. Let me just use this opportunity to point out that the new innovation system is easily my favorite technology system in any game, especially since you took the opportunity to slip in a bunch of features that I've been clamoring for since 1.0, like the ability to turn a guaranteed country into a subject. I really hope you continue to expand on the trees in the future, especially by adding more innovations that significantly alter the way you play the game, like major syncretism or colonnaire. I agree, as I think I've stated in a few interviews, like this one. Yeah, yeah. The innovation trees themselves are a super simple way of giving design a massive amount of freedom to structure and deliver their ideas. They grew up a fairly offhand idea that someone had and iterated on as a side project. We realized pretty soon after that the system had a lot of merit and scope for expansion, so we threw more time that way. For me, I think the innovation system is fantastic. I do think it is. I'm pretty sure I agree that it is definitely one of my favorite technology systems in any game. I'm trying to think of other games with technology systems to see if I can think of one that is better, and I am coming up blank, but I also have a terrible memory, so bear that in mind. Yeah, no, it is really good. One thing I think we would want more of in the future is inventions that are specific to different cultures. I know we have them. We do have them, but I want more of them. I definitely want more of them. So maybe we can get more of them in the future. Perhaps. Hopefully. See if there are any more. There are not. But yeah, no, that is Imperator Rome's birth. We're just gonna leave this one open because that's just phenomenal. That's Imperator Rome's birthday. It's 2 years since it came out, and I think it's fairly safe to say I've kind of pinned my flag to Imperator. I know that very, very early on, I decided I wanted to bring my channel in a direction that was, you know, Imperator focused, because I really enjoyed the game, especially with 1.2. I very much enjoyed the game, and I wanted to cover it a lot. I do remember thinking pretty early on after Imperator was released that I wanted to become the A-Spec of Imperator. If you don't know who A-Spec is, you probably don't follow Stellaris. But no, if you don't know who A-Spec is, he is another content creator who I have a lot of respect for because he's fantastic. And he covers Stellaris in great detail. If you are a fan of Stellaris and you want to watch somebody on YouTube for Stellaris content, you go and follow A-Spec. I wanted to be that for Imperator. And I have a sneaking suspicion that if Imperator was more popular, I'd probably have more subscribers. So maybe that plan didn't, you know, come into effect, but, you know, maybe it will in the future, who knows. But I do recall that that was a direction that I actively went down, and I don't regret it, because I do enjoy the game. I do continue to enjoy the game, and we'll see where the future goes. Maybe when if Imperator picks up a lot of popularity, maybe my channel will follow along with it. That'd be pretty nice. But we will leave it there.